I didn't scream. I didn't confront her, and I didn't give her a chance to explain. After 3.5 years of marriage, I found proof she was cheating. And instead of a fight, I chose silence. I packed my bags, walked out the door, and she still has no idea how much I know. We'd been married for 3.5 years, not decades, but long enough to build a rhythm that felt like second nature. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said our marriage wasn't just solid. It was good, not perfect, because nothing ever is, but steady in a way that felt safe. We had our little routines that made the days blur together in a comforting loop. She always brewed the first pot of coffee in the morning, even though she rarely drank more than half a cup herself. She said she liked the smell more than the taste. I'd tease her about it, and she'd roll her eyes and tell me I was addicted at night. It was my job to lock up windows, doors, lights. We joked that she kept us awake and I kept us safe. Weekends were our favorite. Saturday mornings usually meant pancakes because she claimed my secret recipe, which was just boxed mix with extra vanilla, was better than anything at a diner. We had this running joke where she'd demand I open a pancake restaurant and I'd remind her I could barely flip them without burning one side. We shared plans the way you do when you think you've got a lifetime stretched out ahead of you. Vacations we wanted to take kids someday. Not just yet. We even had a list on the fridge titled, "Someday," filled with things as small as buying a better couch and as big as moving to a quieter town. When we were older, even the small things made me feel close to her. She'd text me random memes during work breaks, the kind only we would laugh at because they tied back to some private joke or silly moment we'd shared. And at night, when we were both exhausted, she'd curl up against me, mumble something half asleep, and I'd think, this is it. This is home. It didn't happen all at once if it had. Maybe I would have caught on sooner. Maybe I wouldn't have been so quick to explain it away. The first thing I noticed was her phone. She'd always been pretty casual about it, leaving it on the counter screen unlocked, sometimes asking me to answer a text for her if her hands were full. Then slowly that changed. She started keeping it close face down, even if we were just watching TV at night when she used to set it on the nightstand. She began sliding it under her pillow instead. I remember the first time I caught myself thinking, that's odd. But then I shrugged it off. People have faces. Maybe she was just scrolling more than usual. She also started working late a little more often. At least that's what she said. It wasn't every day, just once in a while at first, then twice a week. Then 3, I told myself she was just under pressure at the office. She had mentioned that her department was short-staffed, so it made sense. And who was I to question her? She was ambitious. She loved her work. I wanted to be supportive, not some suspicious husband keeping tabs on her. The emotional distance came in small doses. Nothing dramatic. Just little things that stacked up. She didn't reach for my hand as much when we were out. Her texts got shorter, less playful. The inside jokes, the goofy emojis, the random thinking of you messages, they started to dry up when I asked if everything was okay. She smiled, said she was just tired and changed the subject, and I believed her. I wanted to believe her. The last thing I wanted was to sound paranoid or clingy because that wasn't who we were. We trusted each other, or at least I thought we did. So I convinced myself I was imagining it, that if I gave her space, things would slide back to normal. The proof didn't come with fireworks or some dramatic confrontation. It came on a random Tuesday night, the kind of night that should have been forgettable. She was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and without thinking, I glanced at it. I swear I wasn't snooping. I'd never been the type to go through her messages or check her apps, but the screen lit up and her lock screen preview showed just enough half a sentence that didn't belong in a conversation between coworkers or friends last night. Was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was disbelief. I remember staring at the words like maybe I was misreading them, like maybe there was some harmless explanation. I opened the phone before I even realized what I was doing. My hands moved, but it felt like they belonged to someone else. The messages were there, stacked one after another. Long threads of texts filled with the kind of intimacy I thought was ours alone. Pet names late night, I miss you confessions. Even jokes that mirrored the tone of the inside jokes she used to send me. It was like watching pieces of my marriage cut out and pasted into someone else's life. And then the knife twisted deeper. Location pins, screenshots of maps, plans carefully arranged for nights. She told me she had to stay late at work. Suddenly, all those vague excuses lined up perfectly. The puzzle pieces I'd been trying not to assemble fell into place on their own. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't yell or storm into the bathroom demanding answers. Instead, everything inside me just went quiet. My stomach dropped in that way it does when you miss a step in the dark, but the free fall didn't stop. My chest felt hollow, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I sat down at the kitchen table with the phone still in my hand, reading and rereading the same lines, waiting for them to change, waiting for them to make sense, but they didn't and they wouldn't. In that moment, I realized something that hit even harder than the betrayal itself. The marriage I thought I had was already gone. She'd left it long before I found those messages. The trust, the laughter, the comfort of knowing I was her person, she had already given that to someone else. All I was holding on to was the shell of what we used to be, and there was no undoing it. No explanation that could erase what I'd seen. I didn't wait for her to get out of the shower. I didn't want to hear excuses or apologies rehearsed on the spot. I didn't want to be lied to again. What good would it do? Arguing, shouting, demanding explanations. I already knew the truth was right there in her messages. Clean, simple, undeniable. So I stood up from the kitchen table, set her phone down exactly where she'd left it, and walked into the bedroom. I opened the closet and pulled out a duffel bag. It felt mechanical, like my body was on autopilot. I packed only what mattered: a few days' worth of clothes, my laptop, my wallet, the little box where I kept my important documents. Everything else, the furniture, the decorations, even the photos of us smiling on vacations, suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. At one point, I stopped and looked at the dresser. Her perfume bottle was sitting there, the same one she'd spritz on before date nights. The scent had always meant home to me. Now, it just smelled like something foreign, like a trick my brain hadn't caught up to yet. I thought about leaving a note. I even picked up a pen. But what was there to say? I know, goodbye. Nothing I could write would carry the weight of what I'd seen. Nothing would make her feel what I was feeling in that moment. In the end, I left the paper blank before I walked out the door. I stood there for a few seconds, listening to the sound of the shower running upstairs. For some reason, I found myself memorizing it. The ordinary sound of water hitting tile. The rhythm of a life that was already over. Then I picked up my bag, locked the door behind me, and left without a word. Because she had made her choice, and now I was making mine. She started calling that same night first, once then twice, then over and over. I watched the screen light up in the dark hotel room, her name flashing across it like a reminder of everything I'd just walked away from. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The texts came next. At first, they were frantic. Where are you? Why did you leave then? Defensive, it's not what you think then. Guilty please, can we just talk? I skimmed them but never read them more than once. My replies, when I sent them at all, were short and cold. I saw enough "don't contact me." There was a part of me that wanted to rage, to pour out every thought boiling inside me, to demand she explain how she could look me in the eye and laugh at my jokes while secretly giving herself to someone else. But the bigger part of me, the quieter, heavier part, knew it wouldn't matter. No fight. No screaming match. No tearful apologies could rebuild what she'd broken. So I chose silence. Not because I didn't have words, but because silence felt stronger. It was my way of refusing to give her the satisfaction of a fight, of letting her off the hook by making it about the argument. Instead of the betrayal, she already knew what she'd done. She could sit with it. The emotions came in waves. Sometimes it was pure sadness, this hollow ache in my chest where love used to live. Other times it was relief, like I'd escaped a fire I hadn't realized was burning the house down around me. Mostly it was a mix of emptiness and dignity. The quiet knowledge that I hadn't stooped to her level, that I'd walked away with at least a shred of self-respect intact. I didn't slam doors. I didn't scream, I just left. And in some ways, that silence hurt her more than anything. I could have said you were right to leave without a word. Confrontation would have given her a stage, a chance to spin it, to cry, to bargain, to muddy the water with half-truths and excuses. You already had the truth staring you in the face. And it was enough. Nothing she could have said would have undone that. Walking away silently wasn't weakness. It was clarity. It was refusing to let her drag you into a scene that would have only left you drained. It was keeping your dignity intact. And that matters more than forcing an explanation that would never satisfy. Sometimes the cleanest break is the quietest one.